Hey, and welcome back everyone. We've got another video today. This is my third demo looking at the Synthux Academy Spotykach. Today I want to use a focus on the theme of gates to kind of orient what we're working on. Very specifically, I want to take a closer look at the gates here and some of the things that we can modulate and control here in the Spotykach. Up to this point, I've been just trying to learn, maybe like you, the basic functions of everything. Again, there's quite a bit of firmware development that still is in the works. Recording this video in late July here, and I hear that maybe by September we'll have the effects going. So that's certainly cool to hear. And I know a lot of other user design experiences, questions about how things are functioning are coming up in all the public fora that are out there, including the Discord channel. So it's really good to take a look at those channels just to get a sense of what's happening, what's going on, and so forth. So I want to then specifically look at how we can use some of the gate functions here. And again, as things change with the firmware, including, for example, the 3 modes, just keep in mind that some of this stuff may change. But I haven't tried this yet, and what I want to do today is use a little bit of my other devices, my Akai MPC-1 Plus here, and specifically we're going to be using some of the CV functions here, which are super handy. And I have my cables color-coded so that when I start working with gates or any kind of CV modulation, I can really take advantage of just, having that clarity. So I think the first thing what we're going to do, I'm trying to decide here what the best approach is. Let me first establish, we're going to try to record in slice mode. And as you've heard about from the various, I'm already having issues with my cables. Okay, so this is my first output. What I'm going to do here is we're going to put the clock signal into here. So I think the first thing I'm going to do on this is record a pattern. And what I'm going to do specifically is use a CV track. And I'm going to use port 1. So that's my blue cable here. And I'm just going to set this to quantize. And I'm trying to figure out if I should record, quarter notes or eighth notes or 16th notes. And I say this because if you have a device like Pam's new Workout Mark II, you know that there's different standards with clock sources. And one of the cool things about that particular device, which I sometimes use as my master clock for everything in my system, is you can actually adjust the parameters of what the gate coming in sends to the device, and you could subdivide or go the opposite way, etc. So I'm not exactly sure how the clock here is going to work, but maybe I'll just put in 16ths for now. I have that set to quantize, so we'll try that. And it's already recording, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to do some fast notes and send these pulses from the MPC-1. And this should be coming out of I just used pad D1, and it's coming out of CV1. So now you see the clock is still the Spotykach's internal clock. To set to external, it's very easy. The Alt buttons are familiar to us now. You're just going to hold the Alt and then do that. And now all of a sudden you see it's flashing red. So that's super handy. So the red means external clock, the white is internal clock. So I actually recorded 16ths there. So it's maybe just something to remember. Again, the tempo in here is about 120. So we're just going to go with this because that seems to be about the tempo that's going here on the Akai. As I'm looking at these, just kind of my 2 tempo buttons. So I don't know, you could comment here on YouTube if you notice anything different. But what we've done here is we've established a clock. And kind of important to note that if you're doing real mode's going to start when it hears the sound, kind of like a threshold thing, similar to the sampler, say, the looper inside of the Akai or other groove box is kind of common. For slice mode, which goes to blue color-wise, it's actually going to wait for the first clock signal. So the first time it hits red there, if you're doing an external clock. So what I'm going to do here is actually record some more timbral textural stuff using one of my kalimbas here. This is a Hugh Tracy kalimba, and kind of a higher end one. It has the nice shakers and the tines here. I'm actually missing one here, but higher end, and it also has a built-in output. It's just a simple contact mic in there, but it's kind of handy. And of course, you can build one yourself and take advantage of your Oka contact microphone as well, which I still haven't used yet, but I'll be doing that in some future experiments. So let's just start. We're going to just record here. And again, it's going to start right when it gets a pulse. So I will just start recording. Okay, so that got recorded. I'm using the dummy cable technique. You're hearing a little buzz there because of that. Now I'm going to put my input into B. So we're hearing that in the right ear. I'm just going to record another pattern. I'm going to switch this to slice mode. And I have these, by the way, set the levels about 50%. So we're going to get half wet signal, I always say wet signal, half input signal, half output signal, if you will, from the actual buffers. So let's do this again. Again, it's going to start because that trigger, the pulse it's getting is pretty constant. Okay, so now I'm just going to switch it to internal. Very warbly kind of sound with these. I think it's because it's in slice mode. And I haven't done much with the envelopes, but I could do that if I wanted a longer attack on my buffer. So I think what we're going to do now is test a little bit here with our clock sources. Now, the curious thing here, of course, is I've recorded this not necessarily in time with the tempo of the Spotykach, which is coming from the Akai MPC-1. But let's just create a new track here on the MPC-1, and I'm going to create a drum track that maybe has, a distinctive sound to it, just so we can hear things. One of the things that I think is important to keep in mind if you're doing testing like this is to maybe pick a set of sounds that are going to distinguish themselves from one another. So if I have drum sounds from the Akai going into both A and B on the Spotykach, and I'm also having this set to half and half live and recorded, one of the things that's going to happen is it can become very confusing as far as what exactly is happening at any given time. So I'm going to try to pick something distinctive, and I'm going to pick a kind of like a Korg Mini Pops type kit, or let's see here, a Univox type sample pack. I'm just trying to look for my actual, here it is. That's my drum kit. And let's go back to 50/50 here and get this track. Oh, and most importantly, we're not hearing anything because I haven't switched my cables. By the way, I sometimes do this on my cables. I have these you can buy these on Amazon. They're colored numbers, and the cool thing about it is it corresponds to each side of the cable. So I have a bunch of these Hosa cables, 1/4 to 1/8, and this way I know the green 5 is the kalimba in this case. And that means I can find my other two, my red cable here, and I'm looking for a purple cable. Here it is. So we should be going in stereo here. And by the way, as you're recording, of course, feel free to adjust the trim pots, because one of the things you're going to notice is like this came in super hot when I was first using the Akai with it. Right now it doesn't sound bad at all. And I actually kind of want some minimal clicky type sounds. These might be perfect. So I'm just going to record here, quantized to 1/16 on the MPC-1, a pattern. And we're just quantizing. I don't even care what it is. I just want some notes in here, a beat. Okay, so we have a basic beat going there. By the way, as usual, no effects on anything. This is all dry sound, including from the Akai. Okay, so these are not necessarily in time with my drum beat, but the next thing I want to do is experiment a little bit with the gate signals. I've used the modulation signals before, and we might try the volt per octave, but in particular, let's try messing with, we've done some work with position and size, but we can try the gate input, and then we can also try this mix input. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my green cable, and this is coming out of CV port 2. And we're going to try this gate right here. Here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to recommend this. So I'm going to create a new CV track, and I'm going to set that to drum, and I'm going to set it to CV port 2, just this pad here. There we go. Now I'm going to change my quantization to actually 30-second notes, just for the sake of trying to do something very fast and dramatic. Sometimes when I prototype, I want to hear exactly what the beats, in this case 30-second notes, are going to do to the gate of deck B. So for now, we're going to just do that. And then let's go to record, and I'll try to play really fast. It's going to quantize the 30-second notes, which are really small subdivisions. And you're already hearing it being triggered. You're hearing that deck being triggered, or 30-second notes. Okay, so let's try this. We're just going to go to B. Okay, so now you're hearing the gate in is triggering on these 30-second notes. And I can adjust the slice, kind of the pitch, and let's see if we adjust position and size. It's a little bit hard to distinguish because the gate signals coming in are so incredibly quick. Now, for the heck of it, I could plug it into the mix input, and you're hearing what's going on here. So you're hearing a little bit of this, and then the drums are no longer constant. It's because they have those 30-second note pulses going in. And I want to use 30 seconds because I wanted to create something incredibly dramatic in this particular case. So let's take that out again. So I think what we could do now is let's change this to make it a little more reasonable. Let's do 16th notes so we can get something, a clock, a pulse here, a gate signal that's a little more reasonable for the purpose of what we're doing here. So we'll record again. This time it's going to quantize this 16th notes. We still have maybe a few 30-second pulses in there, but we're going to call that good. Hopefully we'll get something a little more rhythmic. So if we put it into the mix input, for the purpose of what I'm doing here, you're hearing the drums coming in a little bit. It's still a fairly fast pulse if it's around 120 BPM, 16th notes. But let's put it in the gate in. So the thing we should be listening to, and I believe it is the case, listen to the drum beat. It's always handy. I was watching a drummer talking about Danny Carey, a jazz drummer, talking about Danny Carey playing a Tool song. And he was talking about always finding the quarter pulse when you're trying to analyze a quarter note pulse, when you're trying to analyze any rhythm. So easy to do. But that appears to be in time when we're hearing this. So what we're going to do here is create some variation with deck B. So I'm going to create another CV track. We are still quantized to, we're going to do it on drum because we just want a gate. We're still quantized to 16th notes. I got my pad here, so I got to create my port 3. My blue cable is coming out of port 3. The MPC 1 Plus, by the way, has pretty good CV integration, CV and gate integration. You can't do fancy, you know, sample and hold and other things you can do in Eurorack, but pretty cool nonetheless. So if I wanted to, I could plug into my position knob and I could do all wet just so I can hear what I'm doing here. And again, you're only getting the right ear, I realize that. But already, you hear a difference here by just tapping, modifying the position knob. I could do that for size. I think I'm gonna try that actually. Let's do a pattern. Okay, so we're hearing something. If I wanted to, I could adjust position. And maybe what I'm looking for is an interesting rhythm. Let's just say I'm trying to start from that perspective. If we want, we can bring our drum back in. And I think we're going to hear that things are still kind of in time. But let's try to bring in channel A. So take the drums out and let's bring our fader in. Nothing is gated here yet. One of the things we could do here is put a new gate signal. And I believe that's going to be, we're going to make a new track here. CV, make it a drum track. Pad D, CV4. Let's see. Yeah, it's working. You can hear that's working. For now, let's just go to A. We're just hearing A and the drum track. Let me just do A. Very easy and intuitive to kind of operate between your three main sound sources. So those being A, B, and your live sound coming in, which has, of course, a fader, attenuator on each of the two decks. So let's just do, we'll just put in again, quantize the 16th, another rhythm of some sort. And we can see there, it's just a stream of 16th notes. I don't really care what they happen to be because I'm mainly interested here in something rhythmic to see how it syncs in the slice mode with the drums. So one of the things that maybe is a handy tip if you're not part of the kind of the Eurorack world is to think about getting some mults. What a mult is, it allows you to put a signal in and take multiples out. These are all passive mults. You can also get active ones, particularly if you have signals maybe that don't do well when they get spread into multiple signals. Some of these are available like this type, which is pretty handy. So it's almost a signal splitter. And in this case, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to have, because I've actually run out of tracks here. I mean, the MPC-1 isn't that versatile just because you have a limitation like deck B. And then we're going to do our new one, also modifying size in deck A. And there we go. Okay, now that's actually a good rhythm right there. Listen to that. It's syncopated. Da-da-da-da-da. I like that rhythm quite a bit. Let's bring B back in and see how we're doing with both of them together. Now, are you noticing that maybe A is a little lower? I can adjust the A level. Or sorry, that's my input. didn't want to touch that. Here's my A output. Okay, there we go. I'm just trying to match those a little bit better. Now let's try bringing our drums back in to see if we're in time. And what I could do is, on the fly, adjust position a little bit. Maybe something more like that. There's a little bit of a pause on the A deck. It's kind of more syncopated. I like that. Let's adjust B a little more. That's pretty good. Let's just hear the two decks. So we got some good rhythms going here. Just listen to each ear. That's pretty good. I was gonna steal another mult here. You're gonna hear that change and it'll come right back once I plug this back in. Back in business. Will my cable reach? It will. I was just gonna try and see if I put another gate modulation source, which is the same that's going into B, the gate in, here on the mix CV port. So that's, I mean, not particularly useful, but you're seeing how we can use the A-B decks modulation to do some interesting rhythmic stuff. If I really wanted to do that, what I probably would do is tap out a CV gate pattern that was a little more, could be rhythmic, but not 16th notes. Maybe we can try it with our LFO, since I'm in this current setup out of cables or gate outputs. A little more unpredictable. You're seeing the A and the B kind of modulate. Could try it slower, or not slower. I could cycle it slower. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, folks. Okay, yeah, that's really good. So see what I've done here, and this should be in time, right? Because it's getting clocked from here, so this should be cycling the LFO at the same rate. But check out what I'm doing. I'm adjusting the amount, and then I cycled the LFO to a bit slower, and you're seeing the modulation. I don't know if you can pick that up, but you're seeing and hearing it actually. So we're getting a modulation between A and B. Oh, so this is getting good, folks. What I like about this is I have a lot of cool modulation going on. Again, what we're doing is modulating, adding triggers to our size on both decks with these ports. We're triggering with our gates. Again, everything's from the Akai MPC1, each deck. So that's putting it in time with the master clock of the Akai. And then if I want to, I could bring my drums back in. And maybe on this sound, to be honest with you, or on this particular Kalimba sounds, So I can definitely keep modifying my rhythms on both decks. But I thought maybe this needed some different drums, so let's check out a new drum kit. That's kind of interesting. So anyway, let's just throw in a pattern and then adjust my mix here in a second, so bear with me. If I don't like the mix, of course, I can do a little more of the kalimba and less of the drums. Do a little more adjustment of position if I want. And of course, when I stop that, the Spotykach is also going to stop because it's no longer getting in the clock signal, so you're not hearing the two decks playing. So yeah, that was an attempt just to look a little bit at the basics of getting involved with the gates here on the Spotykach. So I think super useful is the fact that we can trigger both of our channels. We can also, of course, adjust mix levels on the channel itself if we're modulating between two different sources on the deck and then external. And then, of course, we can do the kind of panning effects here. And I think it's going to be super interesting once we get drifting going at the level of the third deck option. And then also with our output adjustment that allows for mono, stereo, and kind of this generative drift thing, which I am super excited about because doing stuff in this stereophonic field, as you might guess from my videos, is slightly important. So, okay, so that's going to be it. Again, today we were looking at gates as a theme just to get more familiar with using the Synthux Academy Spotykach. As I use it each day, I'm discovering new things, so I'll try to create some of these additional videos. One of the ones I do have coming up, which I'm excited about, is one on textures. And at some point, I'm going to introduce effects in these experiments. I haven't yet because I want you to hear the dry signal because, again, everything through a shimmer reverb sounds like everything else through a shimmer reverb. So gates today is our focus. Hope you're enjoying working with the Spotykach. If you have one already, if you're thinking about getting one in the fall, when they come out officially, I believe, then you'll know a little bit more about what you're getting into here with this looper to see if it's in your wheelhouse in terms of what you might be doing in your own sonic experiments, performance, or whatever musical things you're involved in. So thanks as always for listening, and I'll be back with additional videos here looking at the Spotykach.